second book that I am currently reading is A Mind Spread Out on the Ground by Alicia Elliott. Elliott is Indigenous. She is from the Haudenosaunee tribe. This is a memoir that Elliott wrote about her life. It covers a multitude of subjects, including the fact that Elliott grew up poor and what that experience was like. She also is biracial. Her father is Indigenous and her mother is white, so she talks about that experience. Her mother also has bipolar disorder, and so she talks about her experience being a child of a mother who has mental health issues. It really does span the gamut when it comes to topics in this memoir. It's almost a bit like an essay collection because while it does have information about Elliott's life herself, it also does weave in Indigenous history into this book. The chapter I read today was called Not Your Noble Savage, and it looked at this idea of indigeneity. How does society define who is considered to be Indigenous and who is not Indigenous or not native enough? And she starts off by talking about a book that was written by Margaret Atwood and the fact that Atwood didn't include any Indigenous authors. And Elliott then talks about how Atwood was questioned why she didn't include a particular Indigenous author. And the reason Atwood gave for not including this author in this book is the fact that this Indigenous author is biracial and she felt like she wasn't Indigenous enough. Elliott then talks about Canadian history and the Indian Act and what was considered to be Indian for the purpose of the Indian Act, looking at people who had Indian status versus people who didn't, and also the way in which the state would discriminate against men versus women. So for example, if you were an Indigenous man and you married a white woman, your Indigenous status would pass on to your children. Whereas if you were an Indigenous woman and you married a white man, your status would not pass on to your children. So she's looking a lot at what it means to be Indigenous and how so much of that is really shaped by the government, by legislation, and it doesn't really mean anything, but yet it has such a big impact on Indigenous people. Very interesting chapter. I really enjoyed it. I have 2 more chapters left, so I think I'll probably be finishing this early next week. And I definitely will film a book review talking all about this because this is actually my second time reading this book, and it is a book that I definitely recommend if you are interested in learning more about Indigenous issues.